Добрый день, дамы и господа.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alexander House. I'm in the agriculture machinery. I'm in charge of a lot of international projects, and together with my colleague, Mr. Shestakov, we're going to be the moderators of this pitch session. At the outset, I would like to explain why VDMA Association and my colleagues' association decided to choose this topic. Digital technologies in agriculture have been in use for quite some time. You all have heard about the so-called precision farming. But over the last 10 years, these primarily were limited to one-off solutions that were not necessarily integrated or connected to one another. And so we tried to tie together some key existing solutions and bring them into a system and attach to them projects that keep cropping up. What is important for us is that we can accept projects that have already become known, along with the ones that are still at the stage of proof of concept, students' projects, so that we could pave the way for younger people to success. We represent about 170 companies, including end-user equipment as well as suppliers of parts. And Russia is a very important market for us. And many companies localize their production here, set up their production here, and they need a lot of talent, young experts. So I will give the microphone over to my colleague, Vladimir. You have the floor. My name is Vladimir Shestak. I am representing the Association of Agricultural Machinery Dealers. As part of what we do, we have been interacting with VDMA for quite some time, quite actively trying to optimize agriculture and optimize the work of dealerships. And our association is in close contact with the machinery manufacturers, and we work as a liaison between the manufacturers and the agricultural producers. It is great for me to know that we have been conducting this event for the third time. Well, we are conducting it for the third time. It provides our clients with an opportunity to learn where agriculture and agricultural technologies are going, and also opens the way for new initiatives to get implemented and realized. Therefore, I'm very happy to welcome you here, and those of you who are watching us online, let's start our event, and I hope that we're going to have a lot of interesting projects presented here, so that we could take a new look at traditional technologies in a new light. Well, thank you, Vladimir. I would like to say that this is the third event, and we are doing this in a hybrid format. I believe that it is very good that we're going to have an opportunity to, speak face-to-face, to discuss the projects that are going to be introduced here, and I would like to appeal to those who are watching us and listening to us in the online format. I'd like to urge them to ask questions if they have them. Please make sure that you send them to us, and we would be happy to get some feedback from you after the event. I think that is enough for the opening remarks, and now we would like to give the floor to Roman Mikasov from the Ministry of Agriculture, and I understand that Roman has not yet joined us, and therefore we would like to give the floor instead to a colleague of mine, Dirk Strautman, who joined us online. Dirk, I hope you can hear us, and the floor is yours.
Colleagues and participants that are connected to this hybrid event online. As Alexander said, it's already the third session, so I think we have seen already very good projects in the first two. We are expecting more interesting and I would say innovation-leading projects to be presented to you today. I would like not to repeat what has been said before, but I think one success factor of the event is certainly the very tight and extensive cooperation between us, the dealer association, and then DVMA that represents the development of more than 170 companies, of which most and all the very known players are active in Russian agriculture. I would like to point out we are not talking about a commercial event. I think we all have the aim and intention to bring key stakeholders together. So you can say the Russian agribusiness experts and to provide a flow to the experts to share their latest innovative aspects and products.
Набрал.
Okay, no, any comment? Yes. So, a warm welcome to all who have joined the first time, and I hope that after the event you will join us in pushing for the next event.
Я ответил. Я набрал.
We are executing this event today in a situation where Russian agriculture is showing another peak performance this year in 2021. And those kind of projects that we'll be looking at, there will be additional foundation stones to support the development of the Russian agribusiness also in the future. So the role of Russian agriculture has changed significantly over the past years from a net importer of commodity to one of the leading nations of, for example, wheat export and other commodities. So I would like to close with the, thinking with the belief that today we are driving some of the modernization, new development steps for Russian agriculture, and we are all in a kind of a design stage here. So I would like to underline what my two colleagues already mentioned. This event will be living from a very active participation during the question and answers, of course, but also afterwards when some of the projects will be explored more in detail. Having said this, I would like to wish you all a very exciting event, and I do cross fingers for all the presenters. Good luck for their project and their concepts they will be sharing with the group. Thank you very much.
Большое спасибо, Dirk, за
Thank you so much, Dirk, for your warm words of welcome and for your explanation of the situation that you have now. Indeed, digital technologies are an important component of today's agriculture worldwide and, of course, in Russia as well. And the next speaker, well, I would like to introduce our panel of experts, because this event's success is going to be underpinned by the experts that are working with us, that have been supporting our project from the outset. I'd like to briefly introduce them to you as they are sitting here in the front row. First of all, I'd like to introduce Alexander Suchkov, Rosagro-Leasing.
Игорь
Popkov, Timiryazov Agricultural Academy.
Алексей Брумин,
Brumin, Samara University.
Сергей Косогор,
Kosogor,
Школа экономики.
Higher School of Economics.
От Сбербанка сегодня с нами Дарья Винникова.
Darya Vinnikova, representing Sberbank today.
Компания «Агросигнал», Владимир Кошинов.
Vladimir Korshinov from AgriFoodTech.
Игорь Кукоев,
Igor
Digital Agro.
Kukoyev from Digital Agro.
Леонид Яковлев, компания
Leonid
«Класс»,
Yakovlev from
компания, которая
Class.
входит в нашу ассоциацию.
That is a member of our association. And
В заключение
the last but not least, Artyom Novikov,
Техника Холдинг.
Ekonivo Technica Holding. Also, the panel includes Dirk Strautman, who joined us via a video link, Sergei Tkachenko. I hope you are with us, Sergei, and can hear us online. Unfortunately, we couldn't be joined by Andrei Gensa from Cognitive Pilot, but we know that he's definitely with us in spirit, and of course he's a very caring individual. It would have been great to have him here, and maybe he will learn about this project later on. And so I will turn the microphone over back to you, Vladimir. Now, a few words about our pitch session. We are going to give the floor to those of our participants that are present here. They will have 4 minutes to present their key idea and tell us about the potential of the project that they are presenting. After that, we're going to have 2-minute Q&A session when the experts will be able to ask questions of our speakers, and then we will move on to the next presentation. So, with that, I suggest that we get started, and the very first project is going to be the project about using VR in maintenance and in training maintenance people, and it's going to be presented by Roman Goncharov. Roman, you have the floor, please. You can walk up to the podium and take the microphone and tell us everything that you want to say about the project, sticking to the 4-minute time limit. Good afternoon. My name is Roman Goncharov. I represent Saratov State Agrarian University, named after Nikolai Vavilov. We're going to be talking about introducing VR in maintenance. It is relevant because it allows us to implement state-of-the-art IT to teach maintenance people in how to maintain equipment. It's impossible to monitor all of the technicians when they are performing their jobs, and this is something that will be achieved using a simulator based on virtual reality. The goal is to improve the quality of training and to reduce the number of errors when maintaining the equipment. The VR equipment is going to be based on a VR helmet, and therefore one would be able to provide training remotely, and VR will immerse the individual in the topic, and this is something that will be implemented at training centers. Companies would be able to save on travel costs, and they will be able to monitor both trainees and trainers. Of course, we have competitors. That includes a Belarusian startup as well, but they don't have daily maintenance. Rostelmash, they do not use the ability to use VR, and Rubios VR simulator is only used for specialized equipment. And here we have identified as our business model what are going to be our key partners, what are our target audiences, dealerships and universities, marketing channels, and where we're going to be getting our revenue. And here are some of the slides representing what we have. That's the virtual simulator for Belarus tractors, and using the 360-degree cameras, you're going to be able to organize virtual tours to study such equipment as we have in our portfolio. And in order to implement this, we would need to put together classrooms with that come complete with VR helmets, and we need to do it in a cost-effective way. And for that, we need to involve dealerships and training classes for their more rational use for training purposes. In addition, our team, that's not the entire team, of course. We are the developers of virtual reality. We have 3D models, and we have programmers in addition to the 3D modelers, and these are our achievements, what we have to date, and this is our contact information. Thank you very much. Thank you, Roman, for being so succinct, and we have some time left for Q&A. Dear colleagues, any questions? Yes, please go ahead. Class, please use the microphone. Leonid Yakovlev. And if you want to speak, raise your hand. You will get the microphone. So we have to factor in that you need to have a camera homed in on you and a microphone delivered to you. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation, Roman. The question I have is, in addition to the VR glasses or goggles, do you plan to introduce a 2D version that would be used on a regular video type of equipment, because when we talk about training centers at agricultural facilities, VR may be difficult to implement somewhat. And is there a way to use videos that could be then posted on YouTube? It would be easier to implement, and how different would be the effectiveness of this approach? Indeed, we have tried this before. We've done this with our students. We went out in the field. We did some shooting for Belarus 1523, for example. Our expert would do shift maintenance. We would film this on a camera, and then we set out to check the oil level, how to check the air filters, and so on. So you can complement VR with this, and you can use the hybrid or mixed reality for more effective use of this technology. That's my answer. We've done this before. Thank you very much. Alexei Brumin from Samara University. You're getting the microphone in a second. Thank you. Wonderful. I have several quick questions. How many different types of equipment are covered by your system? Since we've only started doing this, we have Belarus 1523, and for class we're using the 360-degree camera for shooting virtual video. How long will you take to develop the right methodology for this? For one unit of equipment of a particular brand, how long will it take you to develop this? Well, in July we traveled to Rostelmash, and they offer their own 3D models. The manufacturer can provide you with a 3D model that we will then process and use that as the basis for our product. We will scan the 3D model, or we could build it from scratch if we're not provided one. Thank you. Daria Vinnikov from Sberbank is next. Please tell us, have you thought about your pricing when you compared yourself with your competition?
Well, frankly speaking, we have not, because this is something that we did as part of a grant, and we had to really draw down the funds from the grant, and then we only thought about our future plans and what to take into account. So this is something for the future. Thank you. Well, thank you for your presentation. About the depth of your model, how many operations you do cover in your model? How much time does it take to digitize everything, say, the full maintenance cycle of this Belarus 1523 tractor? Indeed, we used only the operations that should be done by the farm machinery operator. So, you need to maintain your tractor before going out into the field, and that's the maintenance part that we covered. Of course, it depends on your needs in the company, whether you need to do the primary checks and maintenance, or you need to provide a full maintenance of the tractor. Usually, the full maintenance is done by the dealership, so it depends on what the farm machinery operators really have to do. Colleagues, indeed, I think that we are done with this presentation. Roman, thank you very much. We come next. Alexander, the floor is yours. So let's share the moderator stool, so to say. And before providing the floor to our second project, I also wanted to mention about the prizes and awards that await our presenters today. Two prizes here. The first one is for the startups, which is in the form of money. And indeed, this is something that startups need. And the second prize would be a trip to AgriTechnica. And in this regard, I would like to stress that this is an event which is supported and sponsored by DOG, and or vice versa. Our association is a junior partner of DOG for the AgriTechnica exhibition. This expo will be held not in November of this year, but in the end of February, early March of next year. So we hope that this expo will be of the same range and level as last year, and some of the vendors and producers are supporting this expo despite very difficult circumstances that we are facing still. So coming next to the next presentation, I would like to give the floor now to the next project, which is about an online presentation. Today with us is Nikolai Ustinov. The project is about differentiated soil treatment. Nikolai, are you with us? Can you hear me? Yes. Can you please put up my presentation?
Презентация на экране, я так понимаю.
Do we see the presentation on screen?
Николай, видите презентацию?
Nikolai, can you see the presentation over there?
Николай, мы презентацию видим. Я не знаю, может быть, она у вас просто...
Well, we do see it, but maybe you have it as a printout. Sorry for that. Sorry for that. Well, VR is not really working here today, but anyways, good afternoon. I hope that you can hear me. Unfortunately, the sound is very bad, so the interpreter will not be able to translate the presentation in full. This is the high energy intensive tillage operations, and according to FAO, we may save up to 60%. And here we can see some of the efficiency numbers.
Николай, я боюсь, что вы самостоятельно переключаете слайды.
Nikolai, I'm afraid that you are kind of like showing the slides yourself. So we need to really provide some differentiated tillage of the soil, and we see that the challenge there would be like a 60% decrease in the yield of agricultural crops.
Кто-то нам может помочь в переключении?
Perhaps someone can help us to show the slides. This is the technological solution that we do provide some vibration impacts on the soil, and this is an impulse-based hydro system. Which provides some impulse or some pulse on the soil to provide the better treatment and tillage. The uniqueness of this technology is that the existing machinery for the treatment of and cultivation of soil, but it can be combined with the existing machinery. And we do have some first examples of such machinery from John Deere. And we can ensure some differentiated tillage with the GPS and GLONASS coordinates for each of the working bodies of the machinery. Well, if you take the overall global market and the business model, the we can realize some of the existing products and machinery for this mode of operation with the potential users in the Russian segment of the market, and the total global market for that is growing from about 7 billion USD to 12.7 billion USD, CAGR of 12% and more. The team project includes academia and practitioners who have enough experience in similar technologies on a regional basis. We do have also some real sector experts involved in the team.
30 секунд у вас осталось.
You have 30 seconds more for your presentation. Prospects. Indeed, it would improve the cultivation of the soil. And third, we can provide also services to improve the quality of soil cultivation. Expectations from the participation in this pitch session would be to find partners for further deployment of the process and the use of some universal principles of operations, and also we need to ensure the AI for soil cultivation quality control.
Время вышло.
The time is up. Thank you.
Спасибо большое.
Indeed, thank you.
Коллеги, какие будут вопросы?
Colleagues, do we have any questions? Yes, please.
Пожалуйста, господин Попков, Тимирязевская.
Mr. Popkov from Timirazov Agricultural Academy. Good afternoon. My question is as follows. I understand that you do not have sales yet. You are only developing your technology. How are you going to deploy your technology in the market, and do you have any competitors to this technology? Thank you for the question. Yes, indeed, this might be first as some optional equipment and maybe some optional devices for the existing machinery. Later on, we can deploy it in full. I'm sorry. Well, I mean, you're coming from a university, from the academia. How are you going to do this in terms of, infrastructure and practical deployment? Well, we may establish another legal entity for that, and in terms of competitors, I believe that there are already some diff-till machines available. Unfortunately, the sound is very poor, and the interpreter cannot really do a good job with interpretation. Perhaps I can ask another question. We can have another question from Sergei Kosogor from the High School of Economics. You have a very professional team, but you only conducted some lab tests. Are you going to do it in the field? Yes, indeed. The machinery can operate in some real field conditions, and we can have some video demonstrated of the way it is done. We do have a prototype of this machine, and the weak point would be the control and operation control there, so it is difficult to really ensure its GPS linkage to the machine. So the machine will be able to operate.
Время вышло. Большое спасибо.
The time is up, unfortunately, and thank you very much.
Николай, да, благодарим вас за
Nikolai,
позитивные
thank you
вибрации.
very much for this positive vibration. The next presentation is from NovBiotech, from Natalia Sevastyanova,
Прибором для
again with
лазерной стимуляции
the
роста
device
растений.
for the laser
Слово.
stimulation of plant growth.
Заключается в том, что сейчас я переходит на производство экологически чистой продукции, при этом динамично развивается как увеличение посевных площадей, так и рост личного хозяйства, и при этом необходимо снижать внесение средств химической защиты, стимуляторов роста для снижения токсичности продукции. Наше решение заключается в том, что мы воздействуем красным светом с определенной волны с небольшим временным интервалом от 4 до 30 секунд в темное время суток, и таким образом происходит активация фотосинтеза. На слайде представлено сравнение салата лоток за одно и то же время роста, дней значительно увеличивается биомасса. В полевых условиях у нас уже опробирован лазерный модуль, который прошел натурные испытания в этом году. Наша технология прошла испытания в крестьянском хозяйстве, также на городском сельского хозяйства на различных культурах, от овощных до кормовых.
Many crops, from vegetables to feed stock. The solution there is that we do have the laser radiation of the red spectrum with the length of the wave of 630 to 680 nanometer with the time interval from 4 to 30 seconds. And we do see some growth in the yield of up to 30%. And of course, the performance might be different depending on the crops and the soil and the weather conditions. Well, here we do see some results in the growth of wheat, 26.4% of our growth.
В настоящий момент нам необходимы инвестиции для того, чтобы запустить парк техники, потому что мы уже после проведенных испытаний в нашем регионе пилотируем наш проект в тепличном хозяйстве.
We are piloting this project in the Magnet Greenhouse project, and perhaps you can show the next slide. This is our economic performance and the total cash flow. We need an investment of 10 million at least, and we are also using grants, and so that we can launch a machinery pool to provide a service to incentivize the growth of crops. The total discounted payback period is 2.3 quarters, and the cost of treatment and the cost of the machinery that is based on the small batch manufacturing. We are finalists of the Startup Village competition. We received some money as the winner in the starter competition, and we are also the winner of the Archipelago 2121. And the team, myself, Olga Trezorova, and Anton Savelyev from robotics, who is providing some technical assistance to fine-tune our machinery. And this unmanned vehicle, aerial vehicle, is also developed by our colleagues, that vehicle would be operated together with the technology. Also, the vehicle can carry additional devices to provide broader service to farmers, like spectral analysis, etc. Now, the next slide actually shows my contacts, and as part of our today's session, of course, we would like to mobilize investors and industrial partners to improve the industrial base and manufacturing base to ensure broad effect from laser stimulation of plant growth. Experts, please. And I do see a forest of hands here, so people are quite enchanted by the subject. So let's go one by one. Igor Kokoyev, my question is about the UAV. First of all, can we use a different UAV not produced by yourselves, and what is the weight of the UAV together with the devices that you install, and how much time it can fly? Well, it has a stabilizer as well, so you can really put it into other multi-rotor UAVs. The weight is 1.2 kilos, and we can bring it down, so we need some money for research, and it can fly for 1.5 hours, and it can cover about a hectare or a hectare and a half. Artyom, I have the similar question. What is the efficiency of this vehicle, and can you really install it in some bigger vehicles, aerial vehicles, to cover larger expanses? And when are you going to also practice it in a real field, not in the greenhouses? And indeed, currently the performance is 18 square meters, so it takes about an hour to cover a full hectare. We're going to launch field tests in the Kursk region, Stavropol, Kursk, and Krasnodar, and then we will be taking the measurements next year, and we're going to launch a pilot project for other crops, like feed, etc., and of course cover other climatic zones for that.
Yeah, Dario, you had a question. Yes, Dario Vinik from Sberbank. Is it my understanding correct that you don't have to use classic fertilizers, but you can only use your growth stimulator? Or is this not a full replacement? Thank you for your question. Our technology can be a part of any other technology, or can be used separately to stimulate growth. We've tried this with organic farming, and the results we got was not just the increase of yield, but also the improvement of quality, the improvement of the protein content, and the reduction of free water content, which improves your storage conditions by 4 to 7%. And can you make a comparison without using any fertilizers, just using your methods? What is going to be the economic effects of this? Can you do this, at least preliminarily? That would have been quite interesting. Yes, we can do this. Yes, this is a question that we can address to our colleagues. I still have a question as a physicist. Well, a flying accumulator with a laser on it that produces several-fold growth of biomass. Are they comparable in terms of how much energy is expended and how much power do you have to have in the power bank of that accumulator? That's the key question that I have. Thank you very much for your question. The batteries, the storage batteries can be replaced, and you can improve their storage capacity, their power, output power, and here we would like to conduct a series of studies to reduce the weight of the payload, and therefore improving the storage power and the output power of the battery. One more question from the chat box in online setting, and the experts have already switched off. I have a question. You are comparing this with the growth stimulators, but are there other foreign partners companies that produce something like this, but are you more focused on everything or just organic production primarily? Thank you. On the world market, laser stimulation for growth on large areas doesn't exist. Sometimes they do trade seeds during the sowing season for that. But we can sell this equipment to a large agricultural holding, and we can also provide training to qualified individuals that would be able to provide training to operators to operate UAVs. And therefore, we have various options we could always go to. Thank you very much, Natalia. Quick question right now. In what regions did you conduct your tests, and what kind of soils did you look at? Primarily, that was in the northwestern region, a little bit of peat soils and clay, semi-clay soils. Before I give the floor to the fourth project, I'm very happy to welcome here Roman Nekrasov, who is the director of the Department of Crop Farming at the Ministry of Agriculture of Russia. Thank you very much for supporting this event. Thank you for providing this platform for conducting the very first hybrid event of this kind, and I would like to give you the floor right now. You're going to get a microphone in a sec. Well, I would like to stand closer to the speakers and the moderators, and I would like to welcome all of you, all of the participants of today's speech session on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture of Russia. Indeed, this has already been a very successful event. We've had a session on the production of agricultural equipment and machinery in Russia, and we also discussed the support measures, state support measures that are deployed to get Russian producers more involved in modernization and renovation processes to achieve those targets that the Ministry of Agriculture sets. And the goals include goals of food security and increase of agricultural exports. And many speakers at the session that I'm referring to spoke about the fact that what is important today is not just to produce an idea, create an idea to improve machinery, but one also has to make it convenient to use, because when it comes to using resources so that people could have the full cycle in place for agri-technical measures. And you know that a lot of innovation projects are being implemented in Russia as we speak. There's a lot of startups that are springing up, and they are focusing on this particular activity. I'm talking about robotics, automation, the use of AI for various agricultural activities. And the Ministry of Agriculture of Russia has, of course, always been supportive of this, because we understand how important it is, this trend is, because we have founded Rosagroleasing, and so this company that we helped found provides products that stimulates demand for these types of items. And it's great to see Daria Vinik from Sberbank here. That means that Sberbank is with us, and that's a very serious financial institution, and its support means a lot. So without taking too much of your time, I would like to say that the speakers, the presenters that have gotten here will have the ability, need to have the ability to present their ideas, and I would like to assure you that the Ministry of Agriculture is ready to review the proposals made by the experts community and ready to review the proposals of the business community to ensure that the government support measures that are in place could stimulate further growth of demand for the products that you are ready to present to the Russian agricultural workers as the intellectual elite of the country. Thank you. Thank you very much for your good words of welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join us, and thanks for your words of advice. Of course, we would wish for you to stay with us for as long as possible. We've already presented 3 projects, and there is 5 more that you hopefully will be able to attend, but I do understand that your schedule must be very busy, and we will understand if you have to leave. But the more you can stay with us, the better. And now we're moving on to our next project called BioDive. Joining us via video link is Andrei Tronin. Andrei, can you hear us? Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me well? Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you really well. Now, if you can, please put on your presentation. Andrei, you can get started. Good afternoon. My name is Andrei, and I'm happy to present to you a project of ours that is a project to develop a portable analyzer for diagnosing cow mastitis. And that is the disease that is quite common for farm animals. From 10 to 60% of animals suffer from this disease annually, and this percentage really depends on how well the animals are taken care of and whether we have access to contemporary or state-of-the-art diagnostics methods. And it is important to be able to identify what is the pathogen in this case and how resilient you can be. And today's farmers do not have access to these state-of-the-art diagnostic techniques, and therefore you use tangential evidence to diagnose the animal. And of course, there's an issue of using antibiotics. So here's what we suggest. We would use a portable analyzer with expendable cartridges that would allow us to identify target or mammalitis, because it provides you a proper access to information, and during the analysis you will take a sample, then you would put it in the cartridge, put the cartridge in the analyzer and get the result. Control of the analyzer is very straightforward, and cartridges and the analyzers could be ordered via a mobile app. As for direct competitors for our development, we haven't found any. So we have been comparing ourselves with other indirect competitors, the so-called direct methods of diagnostics, including the cultural method and the real-time PCR methods. And of course, they're not accessible to today's farmers, and they are only available at major agricultural facilities. As for indirect methods, they are well distributed and well common, but they can only tell you whether the animal does have the garget or doesn't, or mammalitis. Now, we plan to ensure that our clients would include major dairy farms, both small and large. And we can see that in Russia we have about 8 million head of milk cows and lots of different farms and farmers' companies. And we estimate that the market size is about 30,000 analyzers just for farms, and at least 2 million tests that would need to be taken every year. And the products are going to be sold directly or via a distributor or a distribution network. And according to our estimates, the expected cost of the analyzer would not be more than 300,000 rubles, and one test should not cost more than 300 rubles. And if I may put the next slide, please. This project was founded by two individuals, myself and my partner, Alexander Yefimov. I have a track record of more than 15 years of developing diagnostic test systems for diagnosing contagious diseases of animals and people. And Alexander has been managing various projects in technical medicine for more than 8 years. In our team we have designers, engineers, electronics experts, and biologists and developers of test systems. You have 30 seconds left. At this point, we are at the point of developing the most viable product, and later on we will develop proof of concept and test mock-ups, and then we will set up production and we'll be ready to sell. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Уважаемых экспертов, какие будут
Dear
вопросы?
experts, do you have any questions for the speaker? I can see some hands raised. Sergey Baranov, you have the floor first from Rosagro-Leasing. Yes, Sergey Baranov from Rosagro-Leasing. What kind of format do you expect to use to sell this product? I mean, how are you going to be doing this? Through dealerships or veterinarian pharmacies? There are two ways we're looking at: direct sales and using a dealership chain. And the second question I have, the shelf life of these PCR tests, how long can they be stored on shelves? We believe that it's going to be at least 6 months, but we'll try to bring it up to 12. Thank you.
Пожалуйста, Игорь.
Yes, Igor.
Попков.
Igor Popkov from Timirazov Agricultural Academy. I have no doubt that this is something that is relevant, and I'm sure that you are going to be able to successfully solve this issue. But there's only one difficulty with all express analyzers. That's the issue of certifying them, because there are classic methods there. They are quite straightforward and well understood. But what kind of barriers to certification do you foresee for your product? Well, this analyzer and this express method is underpinned by the PCR method. And there are a lot of similar methods and products that are used, not in the express format though, but in specialized labs, and therefore we're going to be comparing ourselves to them. In addition to this, there are standards, national standards, and other requirements that could be used to have our express analyzers and tests properly certified using cultural methods, and we will then look into what kind of service and certification centers we're going to be using to have our product certified. So there are several ways to do this. Thank you very much. And at this point, I will turn the microphone over to you, Vladimir. I'm shocked that the PCR tests have already gotten as far as cows. I do realize this, but we were talking about PCR in the presentation. But let's talk about this antimicrobial topic. The next presentation will be by Ilya Kuznetsov, talking about an active antimicrobial packaging from Kryazat. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Good afternoon, Ilya. Please go ahead. If I may ask you to put on my presentation at this moment. To be honest, I cannot see whether you can see your slides. We haven't yet seen it displayed. I will start the timer as soon as the presentation is up. But in the meantime, you can start talking. Yes, I have been introduced. My name is Ilya Kuznetsov. I'm representing the BioZ active antimicrobial packaging, and I will ask a rhetorical question that I will try to address myself. Why are we doing this all together? And the way I understand it and see it, we're doing this in order to ensure that we can feed people with fresh, good quality foodstuffs as effectively and as cheaply as possible. And it is the reason why we decided to estimate how much product gets wasted. And the UN FAO has shown that up to 35% of food is lost in industrialized countries, and 15% of the products never leave the grounds of the producers. And yet, people are ready to buy products that contain as little preservatives as possible, taking care of their health, and they're ready to pay more for this within reason, so to speak. And since the existing packaging is associated with the waste of food and loss, despite all the innovations, we decided to go into the field of microbiology and to create a package that would be fighting the spoiling of foods. And we patented that is based on the zinc HeLac compounds. And the product of ours we have introduced into several matrices that are used to make packagings that includes ABS, polystyrol, PVC, and paper of all types. types and kinds. And our study indicates that this package allows you to either minimize the use of preservatives or completely eradicate their use. And at the same time, we don't have to use complicated gas environments and hard-to-produce polymer-based packages. And here we're showing you some curves and graphs, and the lower bottom is the active antimicrobial package for poultry, pork, fish, vegetables, fruit, and ready-to-eat meals. And so the shelf life increases at least 2.5 times compared to the regular type of package. And all of these things were tested in accredited labs in several cities. That includes Moscow, Nizhny Novgorod, Tambov, and Krasnodar. And they are accredited labs there that use their protocols to build these graphs and curves on the graphs. And here are some numbers about how much money is worth, the world market of packaging is worth for food products. Experts believe that it's going to grow 6% in 2021, well, between 2021 and 2027. And in addition to glass and others, the flexible and paper-based packaging amounts to 219 billion. Well, what is our business model and the target market? We will be producing polymer pellets that will be filled with our active component. These granules could be delivered to any point on the globe, and then you would be able to produce these packages over there, right, in situ, and make them active to increase their shelf lives. And we're talking about active polymer packages and films to avoid having to ship them across the world. And the target market includes, of course, the producers of packaging and producers of foodstuffs and food products. And our team is fairly small, but it is quite competent. Why are we here? We need to get investment in order to finalize the technology of obtaining these pellets. And time-wise, this is going to take 1 year or 1 quarter on top of that, or 2 quarters. That's all I had. Thank you very much for your attention. We're ready to take your questions. Our contact details are on the website.
Ilya, thank you for your presentation. Please, questions. Well, good afternoon. My question is as follows. Economically, what is the cost of this 1 unit of packaging? So what about the economic size of that? In terms of finances, we actually approximated it to, this would be about 10 to 15% high in price, but this just is the first approximate number. But we did not really try to optimize the economics of the project. We were not able to get really adequate data about the perishable goods, how much is really lost because of the shorter shelf lives. But we did this only in a lab. We did not scale it up to real production, but we would say that the increase in price of packaging would be from 10 to 15% if you use our technology. Thank you. Question is as follows, of 2 parts. Do you have any limitations on the use of such packaging in terms of foodstuffs? Are there any limitations for human beings, like allergies, etc.? And what about the processing of your packaging later on? Well, the packaging itself is totally safe. We actually tested it in various labs in Moscow and Nizhny Novgorod. The hazard class is number 4, which is the lowest one. So the packaging is actually 2 times as hazardous as salt, really. It is actually very safe. The post-treatment, it is the usual waste treatment of plastics, but we are actually thinking about biodegradable packaging, and we would probably try to do something about that. Igor Kokoyev, please. In terms of the business model, do you see yourselves as the producer of those pellets or granules, or are you going to sell technologies, patents, etc.? So what is your business model? You know, really, we would like to integrate into some pellet production, granule production, because initially you have to control the manufacturing process. We did this in a lab, but we did not scale it up, as I said. We would like really to produce those pellets for further production of packaging. Do we have any other questions? Yes, please, Igor. Igor Popkov from Timirezev Agricultural Academy. Well, I heard that you are still at the stage of researching into the production of pellets, but whence those big charts come with such no names? Well, we did this pellet project with Magnet and Lenta retail stores, so we talked to the owners of those retail chains, and we actually do receive our own films in the laboratory. We can produce those polyethylene films, and we also produce active paper packaging in our lab. So based on our paper and films, we provided some samples of packaging to the industrial labs with appropriate controls and experiments, etc. So the data that we received are all put into the lab test protocol. Briefly, you probably assess the packaging market in Russia, and you also have foreign companies operating here. How are you going to compete against the foreign vendors of packaging? Or are you going only to compete against the Russian competitors? You know, we have not really looked that far into the future. We know that the Russian packaging market is only 0.28% of the global packaging market. But if you take the Russian producers and vendors of packaging, there you have a certain interest in our technologies, and we're going to really produce some test batch production next week for 300 kilo batches of food, and we'll see how it goes. So this is where we can probably look at, and we have not yet considered and contemplated our competition against foreign vendors of packaging. We'll see what we shall see. Thank you very much. Our next project is Green Growth from Alfia Kayumova, who is here with us today. Perhaps I can ask you to come to the podium and launch the presentation. It is more or less like some interactive presentation that we're going to have. And I understand that, Alfia, are you going to switch your slides yourself? Hello, dear panelists and dear participants and audience. My name is Alfia and my name is Evgeny, and we are the founders of the Green Growth startup. Any manufacturing, any production should finalize in the check of the outcome of such production. And this is very important for crop farming, because a farmer is investing a lot of time, effort and money into the procurement of machinery and seeds, etc., to really have the maximum yield. However, the overall gross number for the yield would not really give you an answer whether you produced as maximum from a hectare of your land. So we created a system which in real time shows the maps of the yields. And this is a client, one of our clients, and this is his farm, and green is high yield, red is low yield. We are getting information from machinery. We really have our own hardware. This is what is inside this hardware device. This is the integrated chip, which has various gauges, and this is what you can see. And we use this in 3 regions of Russia and in Belarus. Also, farmers face another challenge because you can know your yield in real time, but you also want to know this beforehand, what you can expect. That's why we take some historical data and satellite data about the landscape, and we produce a forecast model which helps the farmer several months before the harvest to know what would be the yield in 2, 3, or 4 months during the harvesting season to make some appropriate decisions to increase such yields. Importantly, the level of penetration of such technologies is only 20%, and the key blocker here is our competitive pricing, which is much cheaper, but at the same time, the overall market value is $1.7 trillion. Also, during this season, we managed to test our technology with the producers of farm machinery. We now have also a portfolio of orders for next season, thanks to an experienced team, both in terms of hardware and also in terms of software. Thank you very much. Thank you. In principle, I think you managed to fit into 3 minutes, so we have more time for Q&A. Who do we have first? Leonid Yakovlev. Thank you. My name is Leonid. I think that you had a very dynamic and fascinating presentation, very brief. I have several questions, more of technical nature. Question number 1. I understand that you have laser measurement devices that you put into the grain storage, but our company is going away from such laser gauges because it is quite a challenging technology, and the farmers are kind of like abandoning that technology now. This is question number 1. And number 2, when the harvester works not like to the maximum extent, then the operator would not care. I mean, the harvesters may travel across the field and not exactly in any particular order. Question number 1. We put everything into software. The operators would not do anything there. In our system, we actually develop models which we use the machine learning to identify the borders of the field, and then the system knows which of the fields is being covered and what calibration needs to be used. Regarding the harvesting, we are not really kind of like linked to a harvester, but rather to a field. We have a grid in the field, and we sum up all data from all harvesters. So they can travel zigzag or with a very small coverage, but we would sum up all data and we would produce those maps that are not really connected to any tracking there. So you can calibrate also to a particular axis of the harvesters. Yes. Super. Olga Hunger from DLG. Olga is with us online. Olga, please, could you unmute yourself and perhaps be on the screen? Colleagues, I have a question to the developers about the integration of this mapping system, yield mapping system, with the other systems used by various farms for management and processes, etc. Just by how much your system may be integrated. We're always open to integration. We believe that yet another system in the market may be bad for the market. That is why we are really cooperating with 2 partners, and we have an open API. Any vendor can really get there and use those mapping data for their own systems and implement that in their interface. Next is Daria Vinnikova from Sberbank, please. Can you share with us, Alfie, you said that you have some yield forecasting models. That is so. How many fields do you cover, and what is the accuracy there? Well, this is only an R&D project, and our model includes 3 data sets, satellite, and this is not only vegetation indices, but also the moisture and landscaping and reliefs, and they can also load the agrochemical analyses into the model, and these are our data sets that can be linked to improve accuracy. Currently, the coverage and the total sampling is about 100,000 hectares, and the accuracy is not really very high as of the moment. Thing is that actually it was 12 centers per hectare, but for July we forecasted 14. But it depends on the crops. It may be early or it could be winter crops. So, well, it is winter barley and summer crops. But of course, you can augment your data sets, and you can fine-tune your algorithm, and you can improve the accuracy. We take images from satellites. Which satellites? Well, this is free data from satellites, Sentinel-1 and 2, right? So you're only having a 5-year prospect forecast. Yes. Can this device be put on any harvester of any vendor? Yes. The plus of the system is that you can install it on any harvester, on any year of manufacturing, and from any vendor. And it takes only 2 hours to install such a device. This can be done by the owner, by the machine operator, so by a person of some general knowledge. So there's nothing special there. No, this is another our advantage to help us enter the market. Sergey, friends, you are analyzing historical data, but do you include some weather conditions into your analysis? And how do you forecast and predict weather, really? Frankly speaking, we are only using satellite data. With weather, you do have some tricky situation, but we are going to really include that to be more accurate. So in a few months, we hope to also integrate weather data there. Thank you very much. And indeed, perhaps you can take your seats and stay with us. It is a very interesting project indeed. Thank you. Totally different feeling when you have people speaking in front of you, right? And with samples, I appreciate the fact that we are slowly but surely going from online to offline. So we had lasers, vibration, and then we go on to the future, to the space, and this is a startup about remote sensing and diagnostics. Aerospace Agro will be next. Yelena Konstantinova, you are online with us. Please, the floor is yours. Hello to all of you. If you can launch my presentation, because I do not see my presentation. Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you, but I do not see my presentation. We do see your presentation now, so you can start your narrative. I represent here Agrospace Agro project, and the main purpose is to provide the set of diagnostics of the field status based on the economic performance and climatic conditions. Next slide. The project was launched in 2019, and currently we have our own methodologies and technologies to assess the economic efficiency of field conditions. We also have a database so that we can use that for our operations, and we are developing AI algorithms to monitor the deficiencies in the fields based on the space high-resolution images. We have a mathematical model based on the assessment of risks and the simulation of the fields, and we use drones and other devices. And this is the we are looking for also the bed crops there. And we are using the technologies to find cow parsnips. We use the VR game platforms to assess field conditions based on the satellite imagery. We have the comprehensive diagnostics of the fields, trying to identify the deficiencies and provide the recommendations. So we go from recommendations as to how much they may be losing in terms of some natural effects and economic benefits. We also have a database that we are creating ourselves, and we are going into the full development cycle. This is more or less like remote sensing of the Earth, and of course, this is commercial surveying and imaging of land. And we are partnering with Amazon to buy high-resolution images and from Sentinel, and we have partners from various partners. Yes, please, next slide. We are using also aerospace technologies to process our data, MP, RT, and others, working with various AI algos of our own development in macro-deli, and we are developing some individual recommendations as well as maps produced on the basis of drone and satellite imagery. Next slide, please. Now I can share more about the platform that we have launched internationally, not in Russia. First of all, this would be the real-time imagery with the use of drones and satellites, getting data in real time from satellites and ground stations, and they would be produced in a full 3D digital map. So we have segmented field maps, and we can show, for example, various defects and mineral deficiencies. We can synchronize with the drone stations or satellites. We can also assess the status of the fields based on our technologies and methodologies, and the concept, the game concept is for the psychological comfort of users to perceive some analytics, and we also are developing some recommendations if we identify problems and issues. We are reaching out to the international market right now. We can have patents and American partners, including abroad, and our team consists of 30 people. This is the core team of our startup. Thank you.
Thank you for sticking to the time limit. Can you click through the slides to the end, because we have omitted a number of them, skipped through some of them, and we want the experts to see what they contained. So we see a lot of questions, and let's start with you, Artyom. Would you please tell me whether you have any ready-to-go pilots, whether you have calculated the economic effect from the implementation? We have been operational since 2015. In 2020, our revenue was at 4 million rubles. Now we have launched a new field state diagnostic system. We have been working on the markets of Russia, and in August we started our first sales in Italy to their vineyards. And Vladimir had questions. Yes, excellent. You have a lot of parameters that you've listed there. Did you get all of them from the UAVs or from satellites? 136 parameters you mentioned. If the proprietor can provide us some data using Earth sensing, that's great. Some of them may have that, some don't. We also do data accumulation using UAVs and also spacecraft. But we also require information about introduction of fertilizers and other information. So in other words, you are forecasting yields. Yes, we are projecting what needs to be done to treat the issue that you have, to take care of it. And this may be done through increasing the leads, or maybe there are some other problems that you may have, let's say pests or something like that. Thank you, Elena. Indeed, you are controlling for a lot of parameters. What is the price of it? Is this technology affordable to a regular farmer? How much is your package of services going to cost? And the second question is to deal with issues, the challenges or problems. Do you have a list of problems one can take care of? I understand that you had limited time, so you couldn't speak about all of them. Well, speaking about the price, we primarily operate with companies that own at least 300,000 hectares. Per hectare, we charge about 450 rubles. That's inaffordable to smaller farmers. So the bigger the farm, the easier it is for them to afford this. A question from Igor. You mentioned pests and diseases. How do you determine the diseases and pests just by looking at pictures? Disease cannot be detected at the onset stage, but we can see changes in dynamics. We can see deviations on the satellite images, and we double that with drones that fly over a particular crop, winter crops or spring crops. Then we would compare the satellite shots on the state of field that is being tilled, and we see whether there are any problems, if there are any deviations according to a number of parameters. Then we would be signaling about this, because in many cases these diseases are caused by some kind of factors that one needs to be mindful of. Thank you very much. Have you already piloted your system somewhere? What is the precision of your systems? The cow parsnip model precision is quite good. In Leningrad Oblast, we had the precision level of 80-85% level of recognizing hogsbane or cow parsnip. We also did this in Kaluga region, and there we had confirmation in more than 89% of cases. Did you work with real farmers or with the ministry, with smaller facilities? This information is something that we can provide you at your request, because we have NDI agreements with them. Okay, it looks like all of your questions have been taken care of. Thank you very much for your presentation, Elena. And now, Alexander, you have the floor. Let's continue. And we have the very last project that we wanted to present. It's called MobiFarm. And I'd like to say that Alexander Bezrukov, and I hope that you can hear us, is someone who had the right attitude. His project was not initially selected for the automated inclusion in the pitch session, but I really liked your insistence and persistence, because you wanted to be, prefer to be on the waiting list, and indeed you have succeeded, and it's great that you are with us today via video link. Alexander, can you hear us? And please launch your presentation. I can hear you, but can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you quite well. Thank you very much for the opportunity to take part in your conference. My name is Alexander Bezrukov. I'm a farmer. I'm a poultry farmer. And I am the farmer who grows small poultry types of birds, and Of course, we have certain challenges, and that applies to some activities that we are involved in. So there are top-level problems that I have encountered in my day-to-day activities. Well, it's the lack of an industry solution, lack of good control for cost, or you have to essentially do partition accounting. You cannot have traceability and cannot automate logging of your production. You need to have that for chain retailers. In general, the work of a small-time farmer is quite difficult. I'm talking about really small farms, family farms, so to speak. So here's what we are suggesting to address this. It's a service that is just an assistant to a farmer. An ERP system. This is a set of templates of activities or activity types that can be moved to the desktop using the drag and work approach. We are trying to automate the work with Rossельхознадзor's systems such as Mercury, and building a sequence of different processes. And we also need to take count of our staff operations, track the staff, and we also need to integrate with marketplaces such as Svoyo, Ozone, and others. And we also need to work with retailers. And of course, it's the management accounting that we need to take care of. This is an internet-independent solution where internet is not available, and therefore the data will be stored on a mobile app or on a notebook computer. These are going to be template solutions or processes that will be created together with the Academy of Agribusiness and our St. Petersburg Agrarian University colleagues. And later on, the farmers would be able to generate such templates that they would then be able to offer in free access as a unique way of conducting one's business. So who is our target audience? It's personal, individual farms, family farms, and according to Rosstat, our target audience includes 23.5 million farming entities, and of course the focus is on Russia, on the Russian market, followed by the other Russian-speaking countries, and farms, of course. You have 30 seconds left. But my team, it's 4 people right now. Myself, as the founder, and the farmer, member of the Association of Farmers for Russia. I have experience working in a large German company as the head of the marketing and category management department. I know how logistics chains are built from buying to sales. My colleagues are fairly experienced. They are experienced in agriculture, and they also are quite competent programmers, helping me raise my quail. And this is the roadmap, and the better version of the MVP is going to be tested now, and after that we'll be working with the core farmers. We'll have a whole range of services we would offer to the farmers. And the very last slide, if I remember that correctly, that's the last slide with my contact details. Thank you very much. I'm done. Thank you.
Я предлагаю вам
I'd like to
глоточек водички,
suggest that you take a glass of
Такое
water.
чувство, что вам она сейчас
I
пригодится.
felt that you would need
Хотелось
that,
бы
and
дать
I would
возможность
like
нашим
now
экспертам
to give
задать
our
вопросы.
experts an opportunity to ask
Алексей
questions.
Брумин,
Alexei Brumin,
пожалуйста,
please
микрофон.
go ahead, but wait for the microphone to arrive.
Скажите, пожалуйста,
Would you please tell us, Alexander,
существующие системы?
what's wrong with the existing systems? I'm aware of several systems that are quite good, and I know the people who make them. Well, it's just the price that matters. Well, there are such measures of support as grants up to 5 million rubles. Or if you introduce a 1S system, and that includes the basic package and license, and that's already quite expensive. And if we take cloud services, they are not the ones with sectoral focus. But they can help you with your warehousing, but not with the production. But going back to 1S, the cost of consulting is 3,000 rubles an hour. A program services upwards of 3,000. Therefore, it's quite expensive. And the poultry unit within 1S, it's extremely expensive. And you need to have a lot of people, the so-called office plankton that would be supporting you. But the farmers I'm talking about are family farms, a husband and a wife, maybe 2 to 3 people at the maximum, that they're really very much involved in production. They don't have the time to sell their product sometimes, but they are experienced and they have their know-how, and they are creating a good quality craft product that we're talking about and that we want to sell through well-known marketplaces. Alexander, if I may, I would like to give an opportunity to another speaker to ask a question. I think we've gotten an exhaustive answer. Sergey, please. A follow-up question to Sergey and Alexander. Of course, Office Plankton buys your eggs. You shouldn't really be talking about them in derogatory terms, but just half an hour ago, awards were given here at the Golden Autumn event to the people from Leningrad Oblast for creating personal accounts of producers of goods, for creating logs. And if you don't like commercial services that Alexei has, what don't you like about the state capabilities that are available for accounting and management purposes that have been focused on small farms? I can tell you that the state is a fairly inert substance. What we are talking about is that we need to create a dynamic product, but these services will be directly integrated with Mercury. That's what you need. We don't mind that, of course. And there are solutions offered by Microsoft or Sapper. Our objective is to deliver a product that I conceived, I gave rise to, and I know that the agricultural sector is not operating very efficiently for my liking, at least in Leningrad Oblast. I think our system could interact with the existing system and we'll find the right interface. And of course, lucky is as lucky does. And you have to work hard in order to succeed. That was the very last of the 8 projects that we have listened to. What we're going to do now is the following. Together with the members of the experts community, we're going to move to a different conference room, and we are going to even enjoy some tea and coffee there. So in this cozy environment, we're going to be able to discuss these projects. We are going to be joined by Olga Hungert from DOG, and Vladimir will stay here in the room, and I will be staying here with other people while you are consulting. And while the experts panel is deliberating, we will have 2 more presentations that we're going to be able to enjoy. The first one of them is from the Smart Cow Monitoring Company, because this is the 3rd pitch session, we can say, and we can boast that we already have the winners of the 1st and the 2nd second pitch session. Since that time, they had gone through a certain path, and I would like to give them the opportunity to speak. I'd like to give the floor to the first of our winners who are eager to have their project implemented. The floor goes to Evgeny Shalugin from Smart Cow Monitoring. Evgeny, are you with us? Are you connected? Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you. And of course, it's a pleasure to see you for the third time and enjoy monitoring your progress. Please share with us what is going on with you and where you are, at what stage you are. Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. It's great to be back. I'm waiting for my presentation to be put on. All right, I cannot see it yet. We already do. Now, in a few seconds, you're going to see it as well. Apparently, I'm watching a broadcast. Okay, I can see it now. Hello, my name is Evgeny Shalugin. I represent Smart Cow Monitoring, a startup, which was the winner of the November pitch session back in 2020. So we developed a smart solution for monitoring behavior and health parameters of agricultural animals, primarily livestock. It is clear that various diseases affect the health of livestock and other animals, and that could have a negative impact on the animals or whole herds. And this also impacts negatively the financial parameters of your agricultural operations. And if we're able to monitor their health, that gives us advantages. And the main problem is that there's lack of state-of-the-art methods for monitoring animal health, and they often use body sensors, or this is done by just regular observers who use the major deviation methods, so they would write certain characteristics that can be monitored, and the very last part of those methods are very labor-intensive, they are not very precise, and they cannot see very subtle changes. At least they will be hard-pressed doing that. What is the problem with contact sensors? They're used primarily to measure the number of paces the animal takes, the response time, and the level of stress, plus feed sensors. Rumination, which is a very important parameter in studying animals, is something that we measure using various body sensors and microphones. And these monitoring methods are based on the use of sensors, have certain limitations on the number and types of characteristics that you would be able to identify. And if you expand these characteristics, and the deviations that you detect thereby would require the number of sensors and the database of sensors that you would need to introduce at your farm. And so therefore, if you scale up such solutions, this is going to be complex, expensive, and labor-intensive. And moving on to the next slide. And at the same time, we all understand how important it is to monitoring the state of health of agricultural animals, or farm animals. And the well-being of animals, if neglected, could result in shorter lifespan, the drop in the milk yields, and in the drop of economic effectiveness and efficiency overall. So, what has been done by us about a year ago?
It seems that it is something different. Anyways, can we have the next slide? Yes. So, what was done last year? We actually activated a neural network to predict, although it was quite slow and it was not able to operate in real time, Despite the fact that it was very accurate, we also developed an interface prototype. We established contacts with different academics in the area, and we still have very close contacts with them from Bristol, Haifa, and some of the Russian universities, like from the Novosibirsk Agricultural University. So we do have many contacts and have acquired many contacts back then, and we continue our cooperation with them. Perhaps we can come to the next slide. So, what are our tasks for this year? And of course, we need to develop methodologies and tools for the efficient measurement and monitoring of parameters related to the health of the animals, their feed behavior, and their sexual behaviors. So a couple of more slides. And really to achieve those goals, we had to collect video data from CCTVs in real farms, because we need some data sets for that, and we had to somehow describe the data sets to identify cows, to develop a module of identification of the cow head. We had to provide continuous tracking of the cows, develop software to client and server-based applications to read flow data from CCTVs, process data, and deploy the images, and also more or less produce an experimental workbench for that, like linking CCTVs, service, and clients. And we are cooperating with a few farms in Moscow region and Sverdlovsk for that. So what did we receive so far? Based on the Econigma near Moscow farm, we have the largest open data sets to track and identify cattle, which has 6,700 images and 1,700 plus test images, so almost like 9,000 images of high resolution. We actually use them ourselves, and we try to analyze them ourselves with some outsourcing. Indeed, the quality of images is very high and much higher than from any other open data sources. So we developed software and hardware-based workbench for that, and this is the architecture of our solution. It is logically driven by the goals that we set for ourselves. It has a CCTV which reads video data and client data as well, so it is then transmitted to a server with neuron networks operated, and they are tracking cows. Then it goes back to the client to write various tags and identification markers and use various parameters. For example, how many cows approached the feeding area, how much time a cow spent at the feeding station, etc. We can come to the next slide, and regarding the identification and detection and tracking, we actually already passed the initial models, and the thing is that those earlier models were not really fast enough, and we want to operate in real time, and we are now using another state-of-the-art model of scaled YOLO, and this is very fast. The accuracy rate for that is the same as for the previous models, but the differences are very minor. There may be 0.1 So that is the difference maybe 1%, but the reaction time is much higher. So we labeled and identified all those data ourselves, and we have both models, the old one and the new one. They do demonstrate much better performance and accuracy compared to the previous stage when we used the other open technologies. Now, this slide really shows you the example of how our model really functions, and we also developed a universal scaling interface to show the health of cattle. The application was developed to be seamlessly integrated into the existing software packages and to work in parallel and together with the existing software. Well, actually, these are not cows on the image, it is our cells, but really it shows that our system can be scaled up to any other cattle and beasts, not only people and human beings. Now, next slide. Again, some of the outcomes, what we managed to do in the past year, we collected and identified the largest data set of the known data sets for the tracking and identification purposes. We developed and trained SOTA detection models of the cow heads for continuous tracking. We developed the software, and we also made an experimental workbench and received some investment from St. Petersburg University for our development. We also have now documents ready for patenting purposes, and we are going to apply for a patent. And we want to also supply such workbenches to several farms in near Moscow and other areas. And at least already 2 workbenches are going to work in real time in some real farms. So I think that is it. And I'd be happy to take any questions if you have. Please. Thank you, Evgeny. Perhaps let us wait for some questions from the chat room. Indeed, I have some questions about the presentation. First of all, about your participation in this pitch session. You were the winner in the first pitch session, and much happened really since then, and the young startups are going to watch us and monitor quite closely to think what may be the outcome of being the winner of the pitch of AgTechInventum. Of course, you did many things by yourselves. You had negotiations held, etc. But what was the benefit of taking part in the first such a pitch session? Of course, without that pitch session, our project would be, a dead horse and would not go any further. I mentioned some of the universities and academia of global reputation with whom we cooperate, and we actually talked to a scientist, a researcher from Bristol University, who also studies the behavior of cattle, and we asked him whether he can provide some data sets to us, or where we can get those data sets for our analysis. And his answer was that there are no open data sets available, and he was not able to provide such data because he had an non-disclosure agreement signed with the supplier of such data, and he was not able to share any. But he more or less gave us a contact with some of the, operating forums, and Echo Niva, and some other of the forums that were part of the data collection project, and that helped us to move our project further. We also consulted them about what they would like to see from our solution, what behavior patterns would be of interest to them, what would be the health parameters that they would be interested in. So summing up, that gave you a chance to reach out directly to your end users, your clients, and then also have access to a knowledge base, a database that really provided you with source data. This is not to Evgeny, but this is to our audience watching us. As you can understand, please share any ideas with us, and we're going to have many more of such events because we, as the organizers, do see the benefit of such events, and this helps many of the startups and also some greenfields to find new markets, new opportunities. In any way, this is a good information field where you can find your place. Evgeny, you mentioned that 2 firms are going to receive your workbenches. Is it something like of a commercial, or still we are talking about some testing to be done there to fine-tune your workbenches? I would say that this is going to be more like test workbenches. They are not of commercial nature. We are not going to get any profit from those. And this is done, first of all, for PR, to advertise our technologies, and in principle, the development is not going to be very expensive to install such workbenches in those farms. So our immediate task is to share our ideas with the firms that there is such a technology, this is quite operational, and this is used in real farms. But we also want to, check and feel the commercial application of our technologies in real time, so that we can demonstrate that to other companies and other firms that this is a good technology and viable one. And Evgeny, one more question, and then we'll move on to another presentation. I did see in your presentation that you more or less cover other animals, that is, your office workers, tigers, elephants, and people would be the next steps of your technology. Would it not be so? And also, that was a joke, of course, but in addition to cows, are you going to kind of like scale up your project to work with human behavior, to work with humans? Is your project really scalable one, and you can go into the human community? Yes, we do have an idea to really scale it up to work with people, with human beings, like, for example, monitoring the elderly who do not stay at home, right? And quite often, such elderly people cannot really provide for themselves fully. Something can happen to them, and that's why we need to notify the relatives and close ones of those elderly that they need to come to help. Same is true for hospitals. That's where we're going to evolve. We do have also in the university where I work some experts who analyze the behavior of humans, people, that is, so we do have people to cooperate with and to develop. Very noble, I would say, goals. We would be really looking forward to your implementations. Perhaps you can also produce an application that would judge your moods by your view, by the way you look on screen. This would be fine. Well, Evgeny, I was happy to talk to you. I am happy that you really made some advance and progress in less than 1 year since the last time. But we do have a question. It's not a question, it's a comment about the monitoring of elderly people. I do not remember where I read this, but really people tried to do that, but it was not really profitable, and they had to finish that project. But well, I mean, they realized that that project was very important, but no money in it. Quite a tragic one, but please remember that. So this is an example when agriculture and any agricultural projects may help not only to feed people, but also to save lives. Evgeny, thank you very much, and let's move on to our next presentation. We had some fun, really, and while our panelists are kind of like talking to each other, we'll come to the next presentation. This is venture investment into Russian agro-technological projects. Sergei Cheremyshin, yes, indeed, and AgriFoodTech. Sergey, we do have a presentation. Can we show that presentation ourselves, or do you have some people who would be really going through your slides? I would rather do it myself, but anyways. Maybe you can let me share my presentation. Well, we are really watching your first slide. Perhaps you can pass on the control over the sharing of the presentation to the presenter himself, so that he would be the master of this switch. Well, while we are waiting for the answering, we do have some difficulties because this is a hybrid event, both offline and online. Perhaps you can start, and as soon as we are able to give you the control over the slide switching, then you'll do that. But so far, let's just continue as we did before. So next slide, let me introduce myself. It's more than 20 years that I'm in the business of foodstuffs and consumer goods, and now that like 8 years in the international business. We are partnering with Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Belarus, the EU, China, and the US. So more or less, we are trying to use our export and import opportunities. In the last 7 years, we started to develop our innovative companies, especially IT companies, and in recent years I'm focused on venture investment into food tech projects. And I'm the managing partner of the Bestseller Fund, a venture company, but I'm also a member of the working group to create the innovative and venture cluster of the city of Moscow. I also have a program on TV of Food Money and Food Tech Innovations, and we now launched also a Food Tech Club, which is an expert closed community, but open enough to make experts discuss matters of food, innovations and technologies. The next slide, this is briefly about the part of our portfolio. In the last 6 weeks only, we added 10 more companies to our portfolio. We have an international team. Next slide. Separately, just about some food tech trends and markets. It's an open secret to the audience that the market is actively growing. Just some numbers for you for investment. The size of investment has grown in the last 6 years from 3 billion to more than 20 billion US. Globally, the growth of investment in Europe is more than 13 times. In the last 7 years, it grew many times. In Russia alone, the market grew 2 times of last year alone. And the capitalization of the companies, food tech companies in the last 5 years, so you take top 10, they grew from 17 billion to 43, and really showing better dynamics than retail and others. And the capitalization of those companies can grow from $500 billion to $7 trillion, and we are joking that soon everything is going to be food tech, and innovations would go into food as.
So the next slide shows where most of the investments go, in what sectors they are prevalent, how fast they grow. Thinking about various categories. Think about the breakdown by category. 3 years ago, when we started developing our venture activities in the food tech industry, we started to initiate our seed rounds in the post-Soviet states with the potential to enter foreign markets and covering a broad range of products, anywhere from growing to agrotech, biotech, to processing, to horeca, retail and logistics, and even marketing related to food, from farm to fork. This is something that allows you to disrupt the market, create new markets, destroy old ones, and become monopolists in your segments. And importantly, have value multipliers that would make your product stand out from real sectors products. And we work with the companies that have founders who are ambitious and who have the potential of entering foreign markets, so that together with the founders they could earn funds on the cost arbitrage, because some company may end up costing 10 times more than a similar Russian company. But in 2018, when we selected this focus, we started looking at the market, and we figured out that from the standpoint of investing, food tech is in the 3rd place from out of 10 top ones. And as for innovative entrepreneurs, food tech was in number 10 for them, because the threshold for entry is fairly high, and the number 9 are hardware projects, and the previous 8 ones are software projects. So it's high entry points, property, plant and equipment, logistics of feedstocks and of finished products, that increases the threshold of entry into that market and decreases the potential of exponential growth for these products. And first intuitively, but then mindfully, we started creating our own structures that allows us to reduce this entry threshold and increase opportunities for exponential growth, which will be shown on the next slide. So, in essence, we started creating ecosystem, which is the buzzword these days. And we have been creating resources and providing them to our group, HR, retail, logistics. So that's what the business required at the time. In our portfolio, we are gathering projects that have synergies with each other. We have about 18 dozen projects in the portfolio, and the projects that we have there
портфель плюс-минус 50 проектов сбалансированный.
will be potentially screened down to about 50 plus balanced projects.
Кросс-продажи, кросс-маркетинг, кросс-покупки, кросс-пиар, матчинг-баст,
comprehensive matching busting, and
весь портфель, либо какие-то
this is something that's going to essentially improve the entire value of the portfolio. And what we started with analyzing what's available out there on the market. In FoodTech in 2019, we built the first FoodTech market map of Russia. In our case, it consists of three parts: development institutions, so worldwide business angels, venture funds, FoodTech accelerators, agri-food retail corporations that have inside them innovative activities, selection programs, venture investments, FoodTech mass media, FoodTech government support projects and programs, and universities. Something that we would eye as a potential partner for our organization. We've looked at about 2,000 projects so far associated with FoodTech, and we've created 140 companies that we found to be quite interesting from the standpoint of fast growth, investment, good and unique business models to ensure that we do not miss out on the promising companies that we could interact with. And then we gathered a Russian project, which was even more difficult to do than collecting two previous databases, because we don't really have investment databases, but we have been able to put together 120 projects in that database. And together with Rebase, we published this very first map. We were helped by Skolkovo and other foundations, and the further maps that were built after that were based on our map. And at the moment, we are in the process of updating this map and all the three databases, and we will be developing annual reports for the international markets in Russian and in Mandarin, so that international investors and corporations would know what kind of FoodTech startups exist in Russia and in the CIS countries. And the next slide is a slide that reflects our understanding of the fact that the number of startups is fairly low. Well, we gathered 120, but if we only include FoodTech, leaving aside AgriTech, depending on what you consider an innovative project, the number of projects is only 200 to 300. And in order to improve the quality of these projects, we started interacting with universities, and right now we are working together with the Food Processing Institute in Moscow, where we are going to have several selection programs and hackathons to ensure that the startup is within the structure of the university, that there are labs, facilities, access to academic research and to students. And together with the Moscow Innovative Cluster, we initiated a joint program called an academy, and I've also agreed with one of our portfolio partners to work together. And the same thing we're doing with the Etmo University, and we're doing this not simply to ensure that startups have access to these infrastructures, but to ensure that the universities not only graduate future employees of corporations or researchers and academics, but students who would be eager to create startups, thereby increasing the entrepreneurial activity index in the United States is 15% on average. It's 9.5%, and it's only much lower in Russia, 2% for the whole country. So we would like to have more of such well-educated people that are entrepreneurial, and we started to hold investment panels with various partners of ours who are developing various practices. The most interesting case is our interaction with Crockford, one of the largest exhibitions. It's featuring more than 1,500 companies there with thousands of visitors, and Evgeny Pisarev was just portrayed on the picture, who was actually pitching his initiatives on that platform, and his company has already attracted about 1.5 million to that project. In addition to pitch sessions like these, we have been organizing informal organizations such as FoodTech Box Night, FoodTech Box Night. We are going to be doing with our partners and big fora, where in addition to the panel sessions and the business program, we will have this fourth FoodTech Box Night event. It's the format that allows the startups to share their stories of success, but also where they may have had failures. And so they will say that you don't have to be afraid, but instead should not be afraid to try and not to be afraid to making mistakes, and that would generate more startups. And it's okay to err sometimes. The next slide I was going to show you is about the following. FoodTech Expert is something that we have already announced, and it's a database of experts, trackers and advisors who have been helping startups by conducting trackers and mentors sessions for startups, so that the startups, thanks to that collective advisor, could grow faster. And since we want, and of course we wanted to mention that we started to host FoodTech Money radio broadcast. We just finished our first season of 39 issues just the other week, and the Director of Innovation for Moscow, Alexei Paramichev, is going to join us during our next season, and we are going to issue a book on the first heroes, first characters of our first season, with more than 30 people featured there. And now in the next slide, we have already made an announcement of this, but more details are going to be available on the 20th at the FoodTech Forum that will be co-hosted by the Innovations Agency of Moscow. And together with Lenta, we started an international scouting project looking for innovative drinks and meals at food startup Shelf, where Lenta would be offering an end-to-end and simple, seamless entry point for startups from the worldwide community. And we would like to ask all of the startups to walk into Lenta and approach them with offers of potential localization of their production. If we see that there is potential demand for such products, then we would be able to follow this trendy thing, which is now known as the FoodTech trend, FoodTech Shelf, and hopefully we're going to be able to replicate this and scale this up worldwide because of the platform that we're going to create, hoping that we will be able to roll this out to other countries so that our food and drinks startups could be available for international chains and offer them their products. Okay, now we target Well, we want these projects to go worldwide, and therefore we want to build a network of partners. We have partners in the States, in Saudi Arabia, in PRC, People's Republic of China, in India. The American story is the most interesting. There's a certification program there that was organized together with the Association of Bars and Clubs. 380,000 restaurants with hundreds of thousands of bars are part of that, and that's part of the HoReCa segment, which is also about food to a substantial degree. And for this partnership network to grow faster, we need to organize business missions, food tech travel, where we gather innovative entrepreneurs and we visit various countries. There are technoparks, investors, innovative companies sharing and learning from their experience. And this year we want to travel to UAE, United Arab Emirates, followed by Mexico next year and by food market China. And we would be happy if you could join us on those trips. And right now we are in the process of developing food tech space. It's the exchange of contract production. Such exchanges exist in light industry, instrumentation building, and light machine building. We will be finding facilities with excessive capacity so that we could create retail startups that will be able to offer their innovative products, foodstuffs and drinks, providing them with the required flexibility, small batches of products, supported and underpinned by certificates developed within the university's labs and produced with their own staff. This ecosystem is a crowdfunding platform, food tech money that allows growing businesses, or fund money rather, to raise funds before they can really be taking out loans from banks. And the next platform is something that is focusing on the consumer segment business, primarily food and foodstuffs. This is what our colleagues from Moscow saw. We were introduced to Technopolis Moscow, a special economic zone organization. They have been approached many times by food companies saying that they would be interested in getting access to Technopolis's infrastructure and to get tax breaks and tax benefits, but they do not fit the requirements of a free economic zone. But we also showed them that we have a lot of innovations, and they decided to create an innovative food cluster of Moscow, and I'm part of the working group of the initiative to create this food cluster. And for about a year, we were preparing the market, and just a few months ago, the mayor of Moscow, Sobyanin, wrote in order to develop this program. The draft of this program has already been established, and we already know who will be the first residents. More than 50 companies have applied in order to waste as little time for red tape. We created, or rather, we digitalized. That's the render of the design of the space, about 24 million square meters of space, or 159 hectares, where we create shared use spaces, and businesses can only would only have to come there and lease space and start their production without investing in the infrastructure, land, and the walls and the shell of the building, and so on. And while all of these processes are being agreed upon, followed by the construction, of course, to save on time. We have digitalized this innovative food cluster as part of the iMOOC and the Moscow food cluster with about 50 participants, and all of the projects that I've already talked about were introduced as non-profit and public accessibility project that everyone can take advantage of. And this is the story of creating an innovative system, an innovative ecosystem. And food clusters like this Technopark is something that is eyed by other regions. And last week, or the week before that, I became the head of the Center of Excellence or Competence AgriFoodTech, where we offer a set of solutions where we could replicate our ecosystems in each region. And that is done by creating technoparks, focusing on agri-food. We have been interacting with 10 regions, with the government authorities, regional authorities, and with private stakeholders and players that want to be involved in such agri-food technoparks. To ensure that our communication between all of the participants of the ecosystem is as straightforward as possible, since we have created this Food Tech Club, we view it as an organization that facilitates professional interaction in the area of food business. It's a club that is not open to everyone, but if you are from this area, you can easily become a part of it. And 204 participants have already joined it.
There's a very active interaction between the club members, and we do welcome people to get united. This is more or less like a civil society initiative. We do know how to monetize the traffic of our counterparts, and through our venture company. This is an open story, open tool, and more or less we are the conductor of innovations and for innovative entrepreneurs and AgriFoodTech companies and universities as the source of knowledge, investors, banks, leasing companies, public programs of support, and various outsourcing partners that may help provide various services to this ecosystem and its members. And I think that's it. And everything is going to be food tech. Well, we do see the panelists coming back from the discussion of the projects, and that was very intensive. There are several favorite projects. And before really summing up, and making some conclusions, and I do have those here in this red folder, but perhaps I would give the floor to all the experts one by one. Maybe Daria, you'd go first. Maybe you can come over here and take the mic on the podium. We do have the wonderful podium here with a wonderful microphone, and maybe we have 3-4 minutes for your comments.
Дарья сейчас включит микрофон.
Just give it a sec, and the mic will be unmuted. First of all, I would like to thank all of you, because we have this really combined hybrid event, offline and online, and it was a pleasure to see some people here offline, like face-to-face. Lee, I thank you for your presentation. And we as Sberbank are looking at startups and various ideas, because we do believe there's a huge capacity in agro-business. customers, and those are very important to optimize their costs and help machine builders to keep our food security. And indeed, the laser project fascinated all. This is the first time ever that I heard about such technology. I would love to see it on an industrial scale with real customers and also data collection. We in the bank have always discussed that, and your project is very interesting. And BioZ, the packaging project, it is very important. We now are discussing ESG agenda, something very important to stay with us for some time. So this is what the future holds. Thank you to the organizers for inviting me here. So I hope that until next time. Maybe I'll take the floor just for a second. I'm pleased to see that among the startups and among the panelists, we have ladies, and it is a good thing that we also have presenters, many female presenters, and I love the fact that agriculture is drawing bright minds, and it should be also diverse. This is something to really note. Even Alexander Bezrukov more or less gave birth to his project, and I really love to see many ladies present here and in the startups. I would support that. Igor Popov from Timirazov.
Включить на нем на самом.
Just unmute the mic. There's a button over there. First of all, I would like to really note this wonderful idea of this competition, of this accelerator of startups. And on behalf of the Timirazov Academy, I would like to say the following. We now have 3 accelerators, if you like, 3 incentives there that would really help others to go forward, and as part of our effort and initiatives, we can use our fields and our laboratories to test some of the ideas proposed here. And we are located in Moscow. You don't have to travel any far. We are also a leading agricultural university of Russia, and we know how to provide additional training and professional training to people so that we can really promote such technologies and products among the customers. That is what sometimes is lacking for efficiency. Well, I would not really disclose whom we voted for, but I should say that looking forward, we do see some good future for VR, and we are prepared to really augment our machinery with VR, and also we are ready to provide assistance to the gadget project and to the analyzers project. The winners in this competition, otherwise we would be supporting all those. It would depend who would be the leader among all those projects that were presented and introduced here. I wish to all the presenters and the projects all the best, and thank you. Alexei, probably you'll take the next.
Включен. А давайте проверим.
And let's just check the mic.
2.
1, 2.
Уважаемые, да, тест
Тест.
Значит, уважаемые коллеги,
Dear colleagues, I was happy to see all the experts here, all the panelists here. With some of you, I only met you for the first time offline. Usually we are meeting now online. And indeed, what is important is to have this hybrid event, and I like the fact that we have 2 people out of 8 coming from agricultural universities, and we have had many interesting contributions, and this is a good thing that agricultural universities really came forward to work with us. As the member of the working group of the FoodNet 2035, I like the fact that we had those segments of the markets presented here. I like the fact that we also had projects not only from the smart agriculture domain, but also we had other projects presented here, like the packaging one. This is very good. There are many interesting solutions and ideas, and those are not simply replicas of what is being done elsewhere, but we are also offering some innovative approaches and ideas. And this is the good thing, and most importantly, what I liked most is that we do have VDMA as the initiator, but perhaps we also saw some German accuracy, and I thank Alexander and what he's representing here for their support, and I also would like to separately thank Dr. Olga Funger. Thank you, Alexei, for your warm words, and we're going to go on like this, and perhaps, colleagues, you can take another 3 minutes each. Well, actually, I wanted to thank the organizers of this event for what we had today. It is very timely and important because science and research are going on, and it is important to have a platform, a venue where you can make a claim. It is important to have companies that are already selling themselves, but you also need to have startups, and we need something of that here. I'm not going to disclose who would be the winner. Of course, there were various activities discussed. We had the ladies actively presenting their ideas, but also the farmer community is not staying aside. Like Alexander, who presented that community, talked about the challenges, and maybe some of the presenters' projects are not really innovations, but I think this is the good beginning to be supported. So I thank the organizers for being invited, and on our part, we are always there for you to really take part in the discussions and assessments. And I should say that we are driven by both research and our internal desire. We have young people coming here. We are not talking about gender equality. Our equality is about brains. So I thank you for being ready to declare and announce your products, your ideas that would be to the benefit of food tech and the food security in the Russian Federation. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you. Sergey, yes, Vladimir.
Well, we really scanned many more startups than the ones that we had here. Only maybe a quarter managed to go to the finals here in this audience. Mostly these are young people, very active and proactive people. They are looking for ways, they're investing their effort and time into something interesting. interesting. All the startups are quite different, but this is good, and you are great people, and I think that this is the future of our country, of the whole world. And maybe this is too lofty, but still, I would like to thank the startups and the organizers. I would say that without much in terms of commercial thinking, you are doing great things. And I hope that this venue is going to develop and maybe, go each and every way, and we would have more startups there. And I am also happy to see you all, and I'm happy to, get together with you. Thank you.
Well,
indeed, colleagues, I thank the organizers and the participants in this event. And I would say we had a very interesting event today. This is our third competition in its history, and the growth of the number of projects and the discussion and the emotions that we had here. Those were very interesting indeed. We argued who's going to be first, second, etc. But this really proves that we do not have any people who are indifferent to what is going on. But this is also in high demand. What I also liked a lot was the presentation when we actually had some difficulties, and the person really kind of did not quit and said, "I shall overcome." And this is what we all need to make a breakthrough. Yesterday we discussed data also. And, it is not about evolution, it is now about revolution, driven by the enthusiasts, as we have here among the organizers and as we have among the startups. The FoodNet, I am in charge of the precise agriculture segment, and I think that all the startups are well in line with the roadmap, and we are prepared to give it a chance, to give those startups a chance to really demonstrate what they can in, real field conditions. I thank all of you. Thank you.
So,
colleagues, I have a request for Alexander. Please, next time, include 30 seconds into the timing of our comments, 30 seconds of praise to the organizers, because we are coming from this online to hybrid now, and this gave us a very good impetus for discussion. I do see that it was really burning when we were discussing the things, especially when we were discussing startups. So, if I may, I'll go through some individual points and maybe recall some of the startups and presentations like Roman. It's like, like real men would open some manual only when you break something. Today, we're not opening a manual, but we are opening a video when we need to learn something. And this is very important about this VR project, and we are ready to cooperate, interact, find some common interests where we can proactively cooperate. I also would like to highlight this laser startup with the laser growth stimulators, and indeed we would love to have this presentation grow into a more dynamic product, and I think that it really has some promising future. And Green Rose, indeed, a very promising topic, but there I also would probably criticize you a little bit. You are demonstrating the yield map, and we guys working in the precise agriculture really this speckled map of yield is not something new. Please update your presentation and your imaging. And you demonstrated your gadgets that you would be installing on the harvesters and the machinery, but why would it have a 220-volt socket also there? Would it need like external power source or not? Also another project, indeed, we sometimes we believe about a startup as a magic wand for the agricultural experts and farmers based on big data. But agricultural producers cannot be sold those magic wands or crystal balls. This is passed over. Our clients want something very specific. The more you introduce in terms of very specific, practical things, the better. Thank you very much.
Спасибо большое, Леонид.
Thank you, Leonid. Well, much has been said, and up to the point, I should say here that all startups, all participants are already winners because they made an effort. They followed the idea, they're trying to implement it in practice, and this is already a victory. But some of the startups which I liked most, my favorite would be the yield mapping startup, just because it's been now 8 years since I've been involved with precise agriculture projects. I also liked very much the laser startup, and really many people said so, and we hope that it is going to work nicely and in bigger fields, and this would be of much benefit. Also, differentiated tillage, this is an important project, but you need to fine-tune the project, and we still have many questions open about the technological part and hardware part. So probably we'll reconnect with the team of that project again so that we can reformat the startup to move on. And of course, as the biggest dealer in agricultural machinery, I cannot but notice this VR startup project because this is very interesting for us. Again, we'll talk more to the team. Probably we can also be engaged. I thank my colleagues. It was a wonderful thing to talk to them and to listen to their opinions, and I thank the organizers for such an event. Thank you very much.
Sergey
Baranov, yes, and indeed we would like to hear from Rosagro-Leasing. Unfortunately, Alexander Suchkov left, but perhaps, Alexander, you can replace him. Yes, indeed. Before this event, we made some preparations. I'm in charge of special projects and partnership relationships, and the guys that I work with actually were very substantive and prepared a presentation on that. And actually, we had some debates before this event internally, and we tried to discuss who would be the winner. Rosagro-Leasing today is a company which has more than 400 vendors with 15,000 counterparties in various agricultural sectors. Our company operates in many areas. We have IT, we have finance, of course, we have agriculture, and we are trying to also push forward some innovative machinery, and now we are offering such innovative machinery for leasing. Well, I'm a mechanical engineer by background, and I can tell you, and I also discussed this with my colleagues, I really like respect very much this VR project. Indeed, we have a lot of machine operators that need to be trained. They need to be educated in how to really do maintenance of their machinery on a daily basis, not from time to time. How to maintain and operate machinery in the field. I would love to see such a solution deployed. And PCR tests for cows, indeed, all those diseases of the cattle is an important subject. We are finding new tools to provide solutions. And the laser solution, the laser startup, is an interesting one. We have more and more solutions in terms of using unmanned vehicles demonstrated in various expos, or this laser technology, laser irradiation. We initially thought that it is actually very simple, but the presentation today, and I can tell you about the benefits of this offline discussion, we thought that this is an interesting project and we have some economics behind it.
And in closing, I'd like to say that all of the projects were quite interesting. We've cast our votes. I would like to thank you for coming here from far away, because this is the first time this event is taking this far from Moscow, for finding the time and opportunity and the strength to come here. And I'm glad that we were able to meet face to face after months of communicating online. And that was a great event that we had today. We are open to further communication. My contacts are available. If you have any issues or problems, just let me know. Let's exchange our business cards and contacts. Thanks a lot, dear colleagues. Thank you. I'm still reeling from what he said about coming here from so far away. And lots of people came here to conduct this event from really far away. And let me just take the floor one more time. And I'd like to say that it is another indication how important it is to be present on the ground, in the field, in person. And although I wasn't present in the discussion room, I could overhear them discussing this very energetically. In any case, the key to success is the ability to interact face-to-face. And now I'm about to announce the winners. And it is not fortuitous that I started with the names of the winners. One of the winners is the winner of the cash prize. It's the Green Cross project that won the project with the plug of 220 volts. You heard the experts say a few words about your projects. I'm sure that you've taken note of their comments. It's important to present your project, but there are still a lot of things that you can do to ensure that your product is better presented, better prepared, and that kind of cash prize is for you to be able to take your project to the next level and show us a product that would take into account all of the comments and other notes that they have made. So they believe in you, and therefore you really won and you deserve this prize. Please approach the stage. Are you going to say anything? First of all, the cash prize is 1,000 euros. I understand that may not be a lot of money, but nevertheless, that's not too little. And hopefully this is something that would allow you to adapt your project to move it up to the next scale, and maybe at the next speech session you're going to be able to present it. And in any case, we have provided, or will have provided you with all of the contact details of our members of the experts panel. If you want to talk to them, you can do this at any time. And as for housekeeping issues, organization issues, my colleagues here will contact you in the next several days, including Vladimir and his other people. We're not going to give you the check right away. Although this is a hybrid mode, this is going to happen outside this face-to-face meeting. But we're going to send you virtual money, but you will be able to spend them in reality. And Alexander, and now we have the most important prize, or the trip to AgriTechnic Expo, an ability to have a booth there. And for that, I would like to give the floor to Olga Hungot, Are you with us, Olga? Yes, I'm here. I hope you can hear me. Yes, we can hear you really well. We were quite fortunate to become a partner of this event, and as an international association of agriculture and food, that's what we are in charge of. We are promoting innovation. We are creating platforms, and one of them is AgriTechnica, and that is an exhibition of innovation, and it is for major equipment building, and they orient their cycle for the AgriTechnica exhibition. The next one will be on the 28th of February through the 5th of March. It will be under the logo of Green Efficiency Inspired by Solutions. Green Efficiency Inspired by Solutions in English. And today we heard a number of quite interesting and inspiring solutions presented by the participants. And of course, we're going to select some of the best ones from them. And let me say to all of the participants here that it is great when you have this conviction to move forward. You really have the passion to look for new solutions. And that is indeed great that you are looking to use various platforms to promote your platform solutions, your solutions in general. That could include events like this speech session, or participation in exhibitions like AgriTechnica, but other ones that are available in Russia, including Agros in November. That is going to be dedicated to the topic of sustainable development of agriculture next year. And therefore, I suggest that you take part in these events, you socialize and showcase your achievements. In general, I was quite fortunate to see that there were quite a number of ladies featuring here. That's pleasing to my heart. And it was interesting to see what kind of solutions that were presented. There was wonderful projects in the area of agricultural facilities management. Another one on yield management and airspace technologies. So I think they have a future for further development. We were quite impressed by the project to use virtual reality for training maintenance operators. This is something that is very much in demand these days in all countries. It has a lot of future, and we were interested in the project on differential tilling that was presented here by Nikolai Ustinov. It's an interesting system of Krishna Barton that you could use in agriculture, I think. And of course, going with the main theme of this exhibition, we selected green efficiency theme not fortuitously, because today, sustainable development of agriculture, this topic is quite relevant, and many on the planet Earth are thinking about how to feed the population of the planet without increasing the intensiveness of production, increase yields without using too much of fertilizers and agrochemistry methods. And the most interesting project that was presented today, that it was of the most interest to us, that was the project presented by Nov Biotech, whom we would like to invite to AgriTechnica to take part in the AgriFuture Lab exposition for startups. We have already reserved a booth for you there, which you're going to get free of charge. And we will look forward to seeing you at AgriTechnica. And as for the rest of the participants, we'd also like to invite you to this exhibition. We will provide you free tickets for all days of the exhibition, including the exclusive days for you. And we would really recommend that you continue taking part in platforms like this, including the following. In AgriTechnica, we'll have an AgriFuture concept contest of innovations with an award for agri-technical innovations at the development stage. With that, I would like to wish all of you the best of success and further commitment, persistence, and the striving for success, and all the best to you. First of all, I would like to give the floor to the winners, Natalia Sebastianova. Are you with us? Yes, I'm here. I'm so happy. I would like to thank you for preferring our company, our project. I was really pleased to hear that. I have always been in favor of eating safer quality food. And if we could contribute to that, we would really be ecstatic, and that is double pleasure for us. And we will definitely take part in this exhibition. We'll present our equipment there. We are quite happy to win. This equipment is already functioning, so would like to thank you very much. Let's give her another round of applause. And we would be really happy to see you at AgriTechnica live. Definitely, I will definitely be there. Once again, thank you. And this ends our event. We would like to thank the panel of experts for your involvement. It is thanks to you that these events are conducted with such passion. And we've had about 40 projects that were entered in the contest. We selected 8 that were presented today, and even the ones that were not selected for this session will still communicate with them, and hopefully some of them are watching us. There's still an opportunity to apply for the next round of our pitch, which is going to most likely taking place in the first half of 2022. And as Olga Hunger has already indicated, we are going to have similar pitch sessions or projects online at AgriTechInventum Digital in the second half of November, where we are going to take virtually the project that won the first and the second pitch sessions. I will mention one of them. That's AgC, that we once selected. And there you would have an opportunity to present your project to a broader audience, including that of international experts. And we hope that the AgriTechnica Digital event will give us an opportunity to meet more with business angels, business foundations, and other financial sector companies. You've called us an accelerator. Maybe we're not a full-fledged accelerator. Maybe we're still just a platform where projects come and tell about themselves, and that's where they have some chance to move forward. But of course, we want to complement what we already have with additional functions. We need to and want to continue moving forward, and the next step in that movement would be to conduct a pitch session as part of AgriTechnica Digital. That's all I had. Vladimir, did you want to say anything in closing? I could speak for hours. But we were praised for sticking to the time limit. Well, we haven't yet, actually. We're a little bit behind schedule, but nevertheless, I would like to once again thank you all for coming here in person, and I would like to thank those who couldn't also for participation. And let me also say a few words to the startups out there. I would like to urge you to screw up your courage and join us. We need you, and you need us, and everyone is looking forward to hearing new bright ideas. We would be prepared to analyze them and review them. And there have been projects that have applied once, and despite failure, continued doing that, and they even reached the pitch session. And if you have doubts, don't doubt, and make your application. We will look forward to seeing you here. And indeed, it was quite useful, as was the case with the Smart Cow Monitoring project, which was one of the previous winners, because that's an ability for you, an opportunity for you to announce yourself and move ahead, move forward, and get new ideas and financial support. Once again, I would like to thank you on behalf of the organizers and the participants, and of course those who participated here as presenters. Thank you. Thank you, and that completes our broadcast.